What is up? What is up? What is up? Happy Friday night. Hope everyone is doing good. Hope everyone is doing well. What is up? Happy Friday. Welcome to the late night. Hope everyone's doing good. Everyone's doing well. Got a lot to get into tonight. No forewarning, just going straight live off the rip. So, hope everyone's doing good. It's a good Friday night. We are now waiting for my brother, my co host. Show wouldn't be anything without him. The show wouldn't be anything without you guys. So, love to get on here and to just share it all with you guys. So, super awesome time ahead for this next hour. There's a lot to get into. A lot of big news. It's going to be a pretty, I don't think it's going to be heated, but I do think it's going to reveal some things that we've been waiting to talk about for a very, very good while. So today is better than none other than to get into it. So DC, Marvel, probably going to get into a little bit of Star Wars. Sorry if I sound out of breath. I just had a huge plate of chicken tenders and fries. I'm going to regret that. But I've been in the gym. So I'm okay. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. But yeah, hope you guys are doing great on today, man. Hope everyone's had an eventful Friday. We are 3 days out from the Acolyte. We are 3 days out. So 3 or 4 days out. Sorry, pinning the math. So it's going to be definitely an experience. It's going to be something that I think is going to yet again shed a lot of light on where Star Wars fans stand with this franchise. It's going to expose a lot of the intention behind the creators, behind who is creating this stuff. And it's going to be something. It's going to be quite an experience, man. Just for everyone who is a passionate Star Wars fan, and it's also going to bring out the hardcore supporters of the new Disney canon. So we're definitely going to see a lot of interaction, if not already, fireworks popping off already. My journey with the High Republic started with Light of the Jedi, which I've had that book for since the High Republic. That's the first installment of the High Republic, and just never really got into it simply because found out the intention behind what the story group wanted to do with the High Republic, and it just wasn't that interesting to me. So, just not my thing, and it is what it is. Props to those who do. If you love it, then cool. That's your thing. But for me, you know, different story. Different story. But yeah, 3 days out from the Acolyte. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to give it a fair shot. And then we'll see where it goes. I am now welcomed by the one and only, the epic Evan Elliott, co-host of J House and the Black and White podcast. Welcome to the show, brother.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I have not. I'm flabbergasted for this one, bro. I cannot put into words the topic we have for tonight. When you sent it to me earlier today, I went straight to the internet because I'm like, nah, this ain't happening.
Yeah.
Like I thought, but then I saw like Rotten Tomatoes had shared it, and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
they're not going to report something they don't know to be true.
Yeah,
And lo and behold, it's true.
it's true.
Tell the people what's happened.
So, ladies and gentlemen, today, if you have not heard the news, uh, Variety broke the story. Shout out to Variety. They broke the story that Zack Snyder will be returning, possibly. He's in negotiation, the contract talks and negotiations now, according to Variety, to return to work at Warner Brothers to do the prequel series to 300. So that and the importance of that, because we talk about a lot of people ask, well, how did Snyder make it to prominence? They ask, how did Snyder, get to where he is today? If you're someone who knows Warner Brothers and you know their early success in the early 2000s and the mid 2000s, some of that success was associated with Zack. And a lot of their most popular projects, from Watchmen to Dawn of the Dead, whatever the case may be, I don't even think Dawn of the Dead was Warner Brothers, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry if I get that wrong.
Well,
Uh,
Watchmen 300.
Watchmen and 300, Sucker Punch, a lot of those early works, but mainly among those, 300, which was what one of Zack's, a lot of people would submit out, maybe even Watchmen's extent too, is one of Zack Snyder's best films. It is also a staple in cinema culture. It has a unique style that only Zack Snyder brought, and it was one of his biggest successes of his career. And so, him being brought back to Warner Brothers, especially after the troubled history and the beef with Warner Brothers and how that ended, is particularly insane. And it's also good news because, I mean, when I saw it, I really couldn't believe it. I was like, really? Zack coming back to work at Warner Brothers to do 300. So, I mean, that's his bread and butter right there. And so we have a lot to unpack here. But what I want to say before I get your opinion on it is that you've you've seen me go through the emotions of dealing with having to restart this universe. We just talked about that last night, literally last night. And
Mm-hmm.
having to go through this whole thing with DC again, and how, we, a lot of Snyder fans, need to support everything that Zack is doing. Support what he's doing over at Netflix. Support, be a true fan. Instead of worrying about what DC and Warner Brothers has going on, let's focus and support Zack where he is. And to you've seen the proof. You've shown me proof. I've seen it myself. I've shown you the arguments I've had. These some of the toxic Snyder cultists are, well, I don't want to support Warner Brothers. I'm not going to support Warner Brothers. I'm not going to blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not interested. But yet you're taking every single chance you get to let everyone know how uninterested you are. And now Zack is returning to Warner Brothers, the company that you've been boycotting. What will you do now? Are you willing to put that pride aside?
Doesn't it put them in a hilarious pickle?
It does.
I mean, bro, I've been laughing all day. I ain't gonna lie. I've been laughing like I've been put under like some kind of laughing, like Joker's laughing gas got sprayed in my face, bro. It's been that bad because I'm like, y'all, you've got two choices. You can either, and you don't have a middle ground here. You can either support the company that you've been boycotting and talking about how much you hate for the last couple years, or you can support the man this movement revolves around. But you can't do that without supporting Warner Brothers.
Exactly.
Oh, that's gotta make them so mad.
And bro, look, what this really shows to me is a failure to be objective, because
Mm-hmm.
anyone with with half a brain would know that this happening is literally the best position Warner Brothers has been in a long time since the DCEU. James Gunn is underway with Superman Legacy. He's working on the beginning stages of the universe, and everything is underway. He's taking his time, and we're going to get there. At the same time, for Snyder fans, this is a win-win situation. There can't be any sort of complaining here. This is a win-win. And I said the few points to you earlier. Number one, we won the Snyder Cut war. We got the Snyder Cut. Number two, Zack is at Netflix, headlining not one major franchise, but two franchises that he gets to be in charge of at Netflix. Full creative control. Number three, James Gunn has full, total control of a brand new DCU and can make it and shape it in a way that Warner Brothers and Zack weren't able to the first time around, which is fine. That's great. Zack already said these characters are going to live beyond any sort of thing that he does or any of these characters are going to keep on being redone and interpreted for new generations. So he has no bad blood for James Gunn. James Gunn is doing his own thing. And number four, Zack is coming back to work at WB to do 300. Everybody wins in this situation, Evan. This is a win. Everybody gets to eat. So to me, you ain't going to hear no complaints from me. My GOAT coming back to WB to work on one of the most popular projects that made him who he is today. Sign me up. I will be watching. And this also shows a failure, I think, for toxic Snyder fans to be objective and not give WB credit where credit is due. I'm not going to sit here and act like they didn't drop Joker and the Batman. I'm not going to sit here and act like they didn't make Doom Part 1 and 2 either. Or that they're balling with the Snyderverse. I mean, with the Monsterverse. That's got to be acknowledged. 10 years of the Monsterverse. That's got to be acknowledged. So they've done great in a lot of other areas, and they're trying to work their way back. So I think now, even despite all we've been through, I'm ready to go full sell optimistic. WB is good with me. You hiring my GOAT, running him the racks to come back and do 300, you good with me in my book. And if Zack is signing on the dotted line, he must be good too. And if Zack is good, I'm good. That's all I got to say about that.
Well, I'll say this. I think that, how do I word this? I don't think there was ever any personal, and this is just me speculation. I don't have any sources to back up what I'm about to say. This is just my speculation.
Yeah.
Snyder doesn't strike me as the kind of guy to hold grudges. He just doesn't. And I don't think Warner Brothers as a business entity ever had any kind of personal vendetta against Snyder himself. I think what happened in 2016, 2017 was very, very unfortunate. Because what you had was a film that did not meet a studio's expectations. And then once that happened, not long after, Zack Snyder goes through one of the worst tragedies I can think of anybody going through. Like, I cannot think of something more horrific for somebody to go through. And the fact, and I mean this in all seriousness, the fact that the man was able to keep his sanity through, because, I mean, that's the kind of thing what he went through with Autumn. That's the kind of thing that turns people they're never the same. But the fact that he was able to pick himself up and keep directing, to me, that speaks to his character. And I respect that, bro. Like, I'm going to try and not get emotional, but that is, like, people don't get it, bro. People don't get, like, he lost something so dear to him in, like, the worst way you could lose it, but he kept going. And that's
Yeah.
inspirational to me. So man to man, the Snyder on that one, like wow, big
Yeah.
shout out. But what happened was you have Warner Brothers as a business who was just like, look, things have got to change. We're worried because we're watching Marvel drop Civil War and they're getting ready to drop Infinity War.
Yeah.
And we're falling behind the 8 ball big time on this. Like Marvel's about to leave us in the dust. Like, what do you have planned? And
Yeah.
Snyder, in the mental state he was in, he didn't have it in him to fight with them on this. And so he left. And I'll say it to the day I die. I respect and support his decision to leave. But I say all that to say I don't believe anything between Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder was personal. It was all business. This was a business decision on Warner Brothers to say, look, we're freaking out. Now, you can say it was a bad decision, and you won't hear much argument from me because I think that while they were right to be a little bit worried, I also think that they shouldn't have been shocked because, as we said in the last podcast, they tried to put too much into one episode, or one movie, so to speak. But I said all that to say, I'm shocked Snyder's coming back, but I guess I shouldn't be that shocked.
Yeah.
Because I've never bought into the narrative that Warner Brothers had some kind of personal vendetta against Snyder or that Snyder hated Warner Brothers on a personal level for any reason. Like I said, I think what happened in 2016, 2017, I don't believe it was personal. I think it was just business. Was it a good business decision? Probably not, especially considering once Snyder left, the business decisions became, well, maybe Shazam will work out. Maybe Aquaman. Maybe Black Adam. Maybe a Suicide Squad reboot. Maybe a Harley Quinn solo film. But something has to work. That was their strategy. It was just, look, we're just going to keep making films, see what's successful, see where the wind takes us, and then maybe we can build on something down the line if we just keep putting movies out. But
Right.
alas, nothing ever built. Nothing ever really got off the ground.
Yeah.
But in terms of Snyder coming back, I'm shocked, but I can't be that shocked because I think, number one, I think Snyder, there's a part of him that's forever grateful to Warner Brothers. Because as you mentioned, who put out 300? Warner Brothers. Who put out Watchmen? Warner Brothers. What would Snyder be without those movies? I mean, that's what got him started. That's what put the name Zack Snyder in the game. And that's something that the Snyder cult will never admit. I mean, that's not even my opinion. That's just fact. Like, without Warner Brothers, there would be no Zack Snyder. There would be no Watchmen. There would be no 300. I mean, maybe a different studio may have picked up 300. We'll never know.
Yeah.
But Warner Brothers is the only people that put out DC projects, so nobody else was going to pick up Watchmen.
Yeah.
But so I think there's a part of Snyder that is grateful to Warner Brothers, even despite what went down in 2016 through 17, which, like I said, it was just unfortunate.
Yeah.
It was a terrible, terrible set of circumstances. And I'll say this, bro. I think if I can play devil's advocate and go to the other side for a minute, I understand that in addition to the DC Snyder cult, there is a subset of Marvel trolls that are very annoying, and I get it. And it's kind of like how some, like, okay, like I'm wearing my Alabama hoodie right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as a proud Alabama fan, I get disgusted at times with how unbelievably disrespectful Bama fans can be to fans of other teams. Like whenever Harvey Updike decides to go poison trees at Auburn, I was aghast and disgusted and angry because I'm like, no, we need to ban this guy. We need to get. He does not speak for us. This is disgusting. He needs to be put in. That's awful. And I'm
Right.
speaking as a Bama fan. There was nothing funny about that. That was
Right.
terrible, and he should have been ashamed.
Yeah.
But my point is, I think a lot of what we've seen from the Snyder Cult is just people who are fighting fire with fire. They've been listening to the Marvel trolls who have been laughing at the demise of DC, and they've had a lot to laugh at. If we're being honest, they've had a lot to laugh at because they've had Black Adam, Shazam, Wonder Woman 84, and just so many other films that just either are good but not successful or are just bad and unsuccessful.
Yeah.
DC hasn't had a lot of good and successful films,
Right.
really any, and it's been
Right.
very, very painful to watch for me and you as fans of this brand. So I can understand the Snyder Cult being uh, irritated. I can empathize, but where I hop off is when they just decide that the solution is boycott Warner Brothers, boycott everything, burn it all. Like, we're just going to be toxic. We're just going to become as toxic as we possibly. We're going to fight fire with fire. Look, if you're going to fight fire with fire, everyone's getting burned. That's how that works. That's how
Yeah.
that works. You fight fire
Yeah.
with fire, we're all getting burned. I don't
Yeah.
know who said it, but somebody once said if it's an eye for an eye, we all go blind. I think Gandhi said that,
Yeah.
and that's true. Is so true, and the cult is matching the toxicity of some Marvel fans with even more toxicity of their own.
Yeah.
And I think they're just blinded by hatred, which is a very real thing. It's like we were talking about the other day. We were talking about watching Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, talking about Koba and his downfall, how he became blinded by hatred for humans, that he started war.
Yeah.
Hatred is a powerful force. And I think with the Snyder Cult, excuse me, you just have people that are blinded by hatred.
Yeah.
And I think that if they care about Snyder at all, they will be glad to see him come back. And they will
Yeah.
thank Warner Brothers for this. You don't have to excuse ever. And this is the thing about forgiveness, okay? And I'll end with this before I pass it back to you. Forgiveness does not mean that you say what someone did was okay. That's not what forgiveness is. All forgiveness is just letting go of anger. That's all it is. Like, if you wrong me or I wrong you in a severe way, you and me can live to be 70 and it'll never be okay what we did. It'll never
Yeah.
be okay.
Yeah.
But you and me can live to be 70 and we can be 70 and not feel that anger that we once felt toward the other person for doing what they did.
Yeah.
And I respectfully extend my hand to the Snyder fandom. I'm gonna stop calling them the cult. I'm gonna call them the fandom. And I extend my hand and I say, look, your boy is back at Warner Brothers. If you love him at all, you will support him. Because if you don't, you reveal to the world this was never about supporting Snyder. This is
Yeah.
not about him. This is just about you feeling powerful taking on a studio.
Yeah. No, man, you're absolutely right in a lot of what you said, because Warner Brothers is a business, and you've seen my reactions. You've seen me in every stage of grief possible about what went down, how we went started from, oh, DC's starting a universe and here we go, to being on different sides when it came to BVS, to collectively like shaking our heads at Suicide Squad and Justice League, and then just pure agony after, loss after loss for WB. And as DC fans, our frustration just boiled over. You've seen me cuss, you've seen me rant, we've seen each other rant. We have cried on this podcast over how many, like, even leaving the pod after doing an episode, I would just be so freaking pissed, like up till midnight, just like pissed because I'm like, it shouldn't be like this. As a DC fan, it shouldn't be like this. And then you compound that by the fact that it's not just DC. It's all this is going down with your favorite director in the middle of it all. So that even adds more fuel to the fire. But you talk about forgiveness, and a lot of people do a lot of crazy things to each other in real life. Hurt each other, betray each other. As Bruce Wayne would say, we kill, we betray one another, to quote the great BVS. But at the end of the day, this is movies. These are movies we're talking about. Be mad for a little while, yes, but after a while, you do have to at some point get over it because these are movies. There's always going to be another movie to be made. There's always going to be more opportunity, and so for a lot of Snyder cultists, I think some people just struggle with that and have their priorities mixed up in life. Because if your sole purpose is to discourage anyone else from taking part in the DCU with James Gunn, and all you do is spend your whole day talking about how terrible it's going to be, who's really miserable? It's not the DC fans. So that's just an appeal to look in the mirror and let's just because I think we forget, and you pointed this out about where Zach would be and where he got his start with WB, right? Let's not forget that, and I'll be the first one to say this, out of 100-something episodes we've done, even before that, I didn't always feel that way about WB, because before then, we had 300, we had Watchmen, they gave me Man of Steel, you know what I'm saying? So let's not act like beforehand, before the DCEU controversy began, let's not act like WB wasn't popping out good stuff and they weren't a competent student, because they were. And the proof is there. The movies are there for that. Between Snyder and Nolan, the proof is there.
Hey, bro, they gave us the friggin' Dark Knight trilogy.
Exactly. So there's a failure to acknowledge that because people don't know how to be objective. And so, WB has the old regime is gone. Geoff Johns is gone. The old regime is done. James Gunn is in charge, and he's overseeing it the whole way through. Clean slate and all, which should excite everybody. And then Zach being back, like I said, man, that's something that we never thought we'd see. Especially after what happened, we thought that was, there's no way Zach ever comes back, to work with WB. And then WB's like, hey, we're negotiating with Zach to come back and do 300. That's a beautiful thing. I'm all for peace. I'm all for it. If everybody wins, I am all for it. And if you're not going to hop on the train, okay, be like that. You don't have to wait. Go do something else. I will be glad to wait patiently while James Gunn cooks up the DCU and Zach is under the exact same roof working on a 300 prequel series. I'm there for it. I got no problem with it. So, they can do what they want with that. Do however they want. It's time. The toxicity is done. It's over with for that. So they're either gonna have to save face. You can keep your pride, and not support WB. Okay, now you're just turning on Zach. So you're just gonna turn on Zach now all of a sudden? I think not. I remember saying that I was going to support Zack in everything that he did. And if he goes back to Warner Brothers, which he is, I'm supporting it. I'm with it. Because that's Zack motherfucking Snyder. So, dude, I'm elate. I actually sat down last night and went through. I rewatched the Gods and Monsters video that James Gunn announced with all the projects that he's doing, and I'm just like, I think there's cause for to be optimistic for it. I think there's cause to be optimistic for it. We're gonna have to wait. Yeah, I talked to a Snyder fan today, and they were like, James Gunn's keeping us in the dark. We don't even have a teaser yet for Superman Legacy. James Gunn. I'm like, dude, will you wait? Will you just wait and be patient? Like, good lord.
Not even a month. Like, you gotta finish filming before you drop teasers.
Exactly.
Like, what?
Y'all already grilling the man because of the first look that he gave of the Superman suit. Now you mad because he didn't give a teaser yet? Come on, man. We have to have some patience here and extend some grace to James Gunn. And now, and I, like I said, this is the best position I think WB has been in, and it's starting to get in for a while. You got Zack and James Gunn under the same roof. That's a W. I wish I could say the same for Disney and what's about to happen. But you know, throw my little shade in there because I'm sorry, them folks. Them folk want to act like we stupid. Them folk want to act like, all right, keep on playing. You gonna find out with when these streaming numbers come out. They gonna let you know about it. But dude, I'm elated, man. I don't even that news made my day. Like there was just a weight of like toxicity that had been there that just left. Like that whole divide and that divisiveness, like to have Zack back at WB, the world is starting to heal. To me, that's a beautiful.
Well, I mean, and that's the healthy way to look at it. That's healthy. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that he's back, I mean, that shows that relationships have been mended. We're moving forward with our lives. We're not living in the past. And that's a beautiful thing. That
Yeah.
really is just a beautiful thing. And the only people that can't accept that are those blinded by resentment. And resentment and bitterness and the refusal to forgive, that's the killer of joy. Like,
Yeah.
you can't be resentful and be joyful. You can't do it, bro. And there's so
No.
many people out there, bro, that are just so freaking caught up in what Warner Brothers did in 2016 and 17. Again, I go back and forth on if I agree with it or not. I see the logic of why they panicked. Like, I get it,
But it doesn't matter now.
but I can't say, oh, I know it doesn't matter now. But I'm just saying, I'm just looking back at that saying, do I agree with it? Maybe, maybe not. I go back and forth with it. But we can all agree that what followed was just a disaster.
Yeah.
It was just a disaster, and people can't get past DC from 2017 to now. The Blue Beetles and the Shazams and the Wonder Woman 84s and
Black
the
Adam.
2016 Suicide Squad and the Justice League. There's just been a lot of hurt. There's been a lot, which and when you hurt, you say and do things that you normally wouldn't,
Yeah.
right? Um, but I would implore the Snyder fandom to let it go. You know, on the last podcast, I made my little joke about the Snyderverse being dead, bury it, let it go. I had my fun, but now I'm being deathly serious. Okay, you've got two choices, Snyder fandom. Support the man or prove yourselves to be frauds. That's all you got.
Yeah.
There's no really in between.
There's no in between. Because I
And
mean,
for Snyder, I pull for the man. Do I think every movie he's made is good? Not necessarily. If you watch my reviews on this podcast of Rebel Moon 1 and 2, you know I don't care for everything he's done. I've been harsh on some of his movies because I try to be objective. But at the end of the day, subjectively, man to man, I support him because after what he went through with Autumn, which again, I cannot stress enough how impressive it is that he kept going after that. I mean, that's inspirational to me. That inspires me. It really does. Like from the bottom of my soul, bro. Like that's the kind of stuff that just to lose a child and you kept going. You kept doing what what you have purpose in doing and you have continued. Like that is something that so few men can do. So many men go through stuff like that, bro, and they just go into a dark corner and they stay there and they give up their passions, they give up everything, and they can't get up ever again. And it's so awful to watch, bro. It's terrible. But this guy, Snyder, picked himself up, put the pieces back together, and when given the chance, made a banger Justice League movie. Made a banger Justice League movie. And do you think that comes out without Warner Brothers' permission? Absolutely not. But did the fandom give Warner Brothers credit for letting that film come out? No, they never did. They just wanted to keep bashing Warner Brothers and bashing them and bashing them. It's like, look, they're literally giving you what you wanted. Like, how can you still hate them? Like they're extending, but because they're not giving you more, you're gonna keep hating them for
Yeah.
past mistakes. Like you can keep doing that, fine. But the fact of the matter is, Snyder is back, but not as the head of the DCU. That's James Gunn's job,
Yeah.
and it may be very successful. I'm not saying you have to support James Gunn in the DCU. If you don't want to, fine. Don't.
Yeah.
Don't. But support this man, Zack Snyder, because he deserves it.
Yeah. And keep and one thing I'll say is that you never bite the hand that feeds you. Cause and here's another reason why I know some Snyder cultists don't listen. They're not listening. James Gunn said that in his DC universe, there's the Elseworlds branch where he allows other stories to be told in the Elseworlds place, like Joker and the Batman. So who's to say? And I'm just being optimistic, just a little hypothetical. Who's to say that one day Zach won't be allowed to come and make a live? He's talked about doing a live action adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns. Who's to say that WB won't allow him to do that in the Elseworlds? Who's to say that they won't allow Zach to work on another DC character again in the future? Who's to say? But all this talk about, oh, restore the Snyderverse and restore, man, no. Be be grateful that this is the opportunity that we have right now. You celebrate and you show out and you support Zach when he comes back. Maybe WB will see that and they'll be like, okay, maybe we could put Zach on something else. You see what I'm saying? Being grateful for one opportunity at a time as fans. Because I know Zach's not hurt. Zach's pockets are not hurt. Chris Nolan's pockets ain't hurt. Zach has got the Army of the Dead franchise. He's got the Rebel Moon franchise, and now he's getting pinned for 300 again.
And
So
plus,
Zach is not hurting. Zach is
and plus Nolan just rocked Oppenheimer, so he's not hurting for anything.
no. Nolan just pulled in the biggest director's check of his career off Oppenheimer. Jesus.
I mean, he just made the best film of 2023.
Yes. Yes. So I mean, as fans, It's enough time for us. There's time out for all that. Put your money where your mouth is. If you're gonna support your favorite creators, be about it. If not, spending 8 hours a day on Twitter and X and Instagram and Facebook isn't going to convince anybody to change their mind. I mean, unless we're talking Star Wars, now that's a different deal. If we can reach this kind of harmony with Star Wars, bro, that would be so great.
That'll never happen.
Man, that's what I always tell folks. You can always recast Superman. You can recast Batman. There are some characters that are just so generational that have a different voice and a different face for every generation. But then there are some characters who are just really also that special that you
Mhm.
cannot mess them up, because once you do, there is no taking it back.
You don't get to mess up Luke Skywalker
That's
and
not
walk away like nothing happened.
mm-mm, that's not something you can't take that back.
But
You,
my closing thoughts though would be, I'm just happy for Snyder. I mean, at the end of the day, I've criticized his movies at times, but
as you are allowed to. You are
I
allowed that.
really pull for the guy. I really do because what he went through. I'm gonna keep supporting him. If he puts out a bad movie, like Rebel Moon, in my opinion, I'll say I didn't like it. It wasn't good. There's things about the film I didn't like. But I hope he gets another chance because I've seen Army of the Dead, I've seen Watchmen, I've seen 300, I've seen Man of Steel. The man's not dumb. He can make great movies. Do I agree with all of his movies? No. But he's a good director and a great man.
Yeah,
He's a
and that's
good director and an even greater man. And I respect him and I'm pulling for him.
you're one of the more rational, level-headed people that can actually say that, because so many people don't know how to separate the objective from the subjective. It's okay to be able to say, hey, my favorite director didn't make a good movie this time. It doesn't make you a hater of the man. It doesn't mean that you hate, this is not towards you, to other fans. If Zach doesn't make something that's good, or Nolan doesn't, or what, there are Nolan fans who think Nolan has made a bad movie. There are Nolan fans who think Tenet is god awful. If that tells you anything, which to me, I don't.
Well, I mean, like for me, Insomnia is not my favorite film of Nolan. I saw it a couple of times. Robert Williams, Al Pacino. It's good. I mean, I don't think Nolan's ever turned in a straight up bad movie,
Hmm.
but there's definitely some better than others.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Well, this was a good one, and we are going to keep following these developments as they happen. There's a lot to look forward to for Warner Brothers. Uh, 300 prequel series. Zack Snyder's coming back. James Gunn is cooking up. He's filming Superman Legacy, posting set photos every day as we speak. So the DCU is well underway. Joker Part 2 is on the way. The Batman Part 2 is cooking as well. So there's a lot to look forward to. And
Whenever we finally get it,
whenever we finally get it, so we'll get there, and it's going to be a good day when we do get there.
yes, sir.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to the Black and White Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Houston, joined by my co host, Evan Elliott, and we will catch you guys later, man. Have a great Friday and a great weekend. Peace.
Peace.